Awesome. Hi, Dr. Shaheem.
Hi,
How
how
are
are
you?
you?
I'm good. How are you doing? Let me just put
Good.
my camera a little bit higher.
Wonderful, wonderful. Is the sound okay? Is the connection okay?
Yes, it's perfect.
Great, wonderful. Well, it's a pleasure and a delight to be with you in this discussion. Thank you very much for setting this up for us.
Thank you so much for accepting my invitation. I'm super excited for today. I'm like, oh my God. Let me just tell everyone about your title because every word in your title excites me. Like every word, seriously. I'm so
Thank you so
honored
much.
to be with you here, and I'm really glad you accepted my invitation. So,
Thank you.
everyone, welcome. Our beautiful guest today is Dr. Shaheem. She is the professor of psychology and leadership, and also learning and development senior consultant. Every word,
Correct.
seriously, I love it. I'm super excited to have you
Thank
here.
you so much.
Please
Thank
tell
you.
us about yourself.
Sure. Well, you have so kindly mentioned a few of the titles, but let me build a story for you that is a little bit more meaningful about what that title is about. My whole life has been about psychology and education. So whatever I have done, right from my first degree, second degree, my doctorate degree, has been focused around trying to understand human behavior better, trying to make more, better sense of why we feel certain things, how we think about certain things, the logic around the different experiences we have, the emotional definitions associated with the kinds of situations that we all find ourselves in. And then I was really interested in cross-cultural psychology. So as you can imagine, as an Iranian who was raised and spent the majority of my time living in the United States and in Canada and in the UK, I found the sort of cultural differences between our psychological repertoires really interesting. So I got into cross-cultural psychology to understand not only our differences, but also there's so many similarities between us. And I think if we focus on similarities, that's when we bridge our differences and we have more of a universal understanding about who we are, and what makes us tick. So I've taught at university, I've done consulting work, I've been in leadership positions for the last 15 years at educational institutions as well as companies. And I love being able to share my knowledge and skills with people. And that's about it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Oh, so glad to have you here, Dr. Shaheem. Just a
Thank
little
you.
bit about what I do for people who
Yes,
don't know
please. I
me.
was going to say there's a lot of friends from my Instagram as well that who are listening, and I would like you to introduce yourself.
Thank you. And the question before I do that, do you want me to turn off the comments for now? Or do you?
Yeah, I think, if we give a little introduction, maybe we can say that today we're going to be talking about the importance of work-life balance or work-life integration. We're going to be covering issues associated with stress, how to manage that better, burnout, and so on. That's the topic of our discussion. We'll take some questions towards the end of it. But yes, I think it's better if you and I focus on the discussion and then open the comment box towards the end.
Awesome. Okay. Do you hear me fine, or do you think?
Beautifully.
Okay, perfect.
Very good. Yeah.
Awesome. So my name is Rosha. I live in Los Angeles, and I'm a money and mindset coach.
Mhm.
I help business owners to use their potentials with the mindset side of my business, and also educate them on their finances so that they can understand money and understand numbers better so that they can make more money and hopefully use their potential to make this planet a more beautiful place. Um,
Fantastic.
the reason I reached out to you, Dr. Shaheem, other than I love you so much, is that I
Likewise. Likewise.
thank you. So I've been working full time for 16 years in finance, and during the pandemic, I started my business on the side. I started by just having a YouTube channel, summarizing the books on leadership or mindset or things that I was interested in. So I started by summarizing the books I've read and also talk about things I've learned from the classes I went. But then it became more serious, and I found my why during the pandemic with the help of Simon Sinek. And the more I realized what I'm looking for, the more energy I got and the more excited I got to become more involved on that instead of my normal full-time job. And yeah, and it
Yeah,
is
I
really
like when you say my normal, right? You know, what is normal? And this is what we've been taught. You have to have a 9 to 5 normal job. And that, I love that you had this awakening of, wait a minute, I'm now going to question that normal. Mm-hmm.
exactly, yes. And it was just, trying to add value as much as I could and see what's happening. But the more results I saw, the more people texted me, DM'd me, or started to work with me and getting results, the more excited I became. And I was like, oh my God, now I'm sure that that is my why. Because at the beginning, when I found my why, I was like, is this really my why? Am I? So just so you know, my why statement is to shine a light on what is unseen so that all of us can achieve our potential and make this planet a beautiful place.
So this statement deserves to be repeated one more time. Can you please say that again, please?
Sure, to shine a light on what is unseen so that all of us can achieve our potential.
That is so wonderful. You know, that I love the unseen part, you know, to be able to reveal and to see aspects of ourselves and also others that are a little bit hidden from sight is I mean, such purposeful work.
Thank you. Yes, and it
Yeah.
gives me so much fulfillment, so much fulfillment. So now the reason I wanted to ask you these questions and see how we find balance is that I cannot stop. I love this so much that I'm like constantly thinking, working, or planning, or talking, or doing something related to this.
Right, right. And so you've woken up the parts of you that is so passionate about this subject, and now they want to be awake 24 hours a day, and they want to put all their kind of emphasis and energy towards this. That's wonderful. And you have to keep going, of course, because, you know, if you don't, you're going to have anxiety.
Sorry, I don't know
Did I
if it
lose you?
was,
Did I lose you for
I
a
lost you
second?
for a couple of seconds.
Okay, right.
Yes,
So
for
what
a
I was
second.
saying that it, right. I was saying what's super important is that of course you need to keep going. Of course you need to continue on this path of what you're incredibly passionate about. If you don't, what will start to happen is that you'll start feeling dissatisfied and unhappy about other aspects of your life, right? And your system will make you feel dissatisfied until you get back on track again and do what you're supposed to be doing and doing the things that you love. But I hear what your question here is, and your question is, how do I manage it all?
Exactly.
Right? How do I strike a balance between doing everything that needs to be, you know, I have certain things that I need to do in order to fulfill my financial and social responsibilities. And then there are things that I love to do and I want to do. And of course, you know, that takes on a whole different set of scheduling, time, structure, and so on. So it is important to consider that. I think this is a question for you. And also, it's a question for so many people out there, men and women, but especially women, working women who have a responsibility towards their families, towards their children. And I think that most of us, the majority of us, have just come back from a period of rest and relaxation. We've had maybe a couple of weeks off in the summer. I hope you have had some time off in the summer. The people who say they've had no time off, I feel so bad because, you know, how are you going to start the fall and the autumn months without at least trying to renew your energy? So you and I thought it would be a great opportunity and a great time to have this discussion right now, so that we could have a reset button to check in with ourselves and with other people, to ask the question of, why don't you stop and rethink? You know, Adam Grant, who's a Wharton organizational behaviorist, one of my favorites. I learned so much from Adam Grant every day. If you're not following him, you need to follow him. He has written a book called Rethink, or Think Again. And it's all about the fact that you might have a certain thought and think about something, and don't stop there. Rethink it again and see, you might approach it from a different perspective, or you may think about a new angle associated with that particular thought that you hadn't thought about before. So we all need to think again about our schedules, about our work-life balance. We need to think about, what habits serve me? What habits enslave me? What are some of the things that I'm doing that I need to stop doing? What are some of the things that are robbing my energy and draining me of my time and of my purpose, and taking me away, distracting me from my mission? Right? And that's what happens when we derail, when we lose focus of our purpose, and we lose track of what it takes for us to get closer to our potential. We start derailing. So it's a great opportunity. We just started September. We're getting back into the swing of things. Why don't we pause for a second and think about some of those dysfunctional past patterns, bad habits that may be harmful to our mental and eventually our physical health, right? Let me give you an example, and then maybe you can think of an example you'd like to share. Our morning rituals, okay? There's a lot of time and energy that's wasted when people first wake up in the morning and they spend 30 minutes to 45 minutes scrolling through social media and reading all the horrific things that are happening in the world, right? That's a morning ritual that immediately, if we could take a measuring device and look at how much we get drained just by that activity, I think we would be horrified if there was a number that we could put into it, right? So for me, I'm thinking about my morning ritual. What could I do in the morning that's more conducive to filling myself up with energy rather than draining myself first thing in the morning? And what are some suggestions? Put some music on, listen to some music. Why don't you do some stretching, meditation, some dancing, some exercise? Have a conversation with your family. There's so many things. Even if you stare out of the window and look at a beautiful view and consider all the miraculous, magical things that exist in our environment, that fills you up immediately, much better and more effectively than some of our morning rituals. That's one of mine. What would be one of yours, for example?
Oh, and I love what you said, because actually in the morning I try to have a morning ritual as well. And in order to do that, like right after I wash my face, I start thinking about three things that makes me happy or proud. Sometimes it's just
Wonderful.
hearing the bird chirping outside, like it's just that, like that's simple.
Right.
Or hearing the water fountain outside, like I just love
Yeah.
that. And
Yeah.
or something that I've done that made me happy. And then I and then I try to do some meditation, very small, very short, because I'm just getting started, like to become, like to do meditation more often. I do a little
Yeah.
bit of that, and then at the end, I visualize what I want to achieve. I visualize what I want to be and what I want to do, and then celebrate that. So, and then I talk to my mom or my parents actually, which I've never thought about that as a morning ritual, but I actually do that in sequence. I always talk to them afterwards. I video call them because they're not here living with me in the US. So I call them afterwards. So
Where do they live?
they're in Iran. Right now they're in Canada,
They're
but they live in Iran.
Yeah, yeah, that's so nice. And you make their morning and it improves your morning. And you start off with goals and with intentions. And these things take effort, right? They don't just happen. You had to learn to incorporate these things into your daily repertoire. Some people say, oh, I couldn't do that. No, sure, you could if you decide to do it. It's not about can't or it's about will you do it or won't you do it, and that's a decision one needs to make, right? And as a part of this, when you make these decisions and you decide to design your day, you also have to think about how to strike an effective balance between work and life. Right? And there's a few terms that are thrown around in relation to this concept. Some people refer to it as work-life balance. Other people refer to it now, more recently, as work-life integration.
What's the
Okay?
difference between these two?
What's the difference? So, and there is a difference, right? So when the concept first came out, people thought that you need to have an equal balance between work and between life, right? But of course, that's very hard to achieve. It's very different if I'm working, let's say, in a coffee shop versus if I'm a CEO of a company. How can I subjectively achieve that to be able to strike a balance between my work and my life? So between industries, between jobs, between work functions, it's very difficult to objectively strike a balance between the two. Another reason it's difficult to strike a balance is because, do we ever actually cut off one activity and begin another? Right? So do we ever leave our personal self at the door when we go to work? And do we leave our professional self at the driveway when we come home? It doesn't work that way, right? It's these multiple identities are very much integrated into the different aspects of who we are. And to expect us to have balance by separating the two is an unrealistic, unachievable expectation, right? Oh, I'm trying to achieve work-life balance, but I can't. Of course you can't, because it's impossible to separate the two. So we introduced this concept of work-life integration, which means sometimes during my lunch break, I should go for a walk. When I'm at work, every 45 minutes, I should get up and maybe do 20 jumping jacks. It doesn't mean I have to wait till the end of the day, at the end of my work day, when I'm exhausted and tired, to do some physical activity. What if I integrate it throughout my daily activities? Why not, the guilt we feel as mothers when we're working, right?
Yeah.
What's wrong with picking up the phone and having a conversation with my son in the middle of the working day? Nothing wrong with that. Instead of dealing with this guilt of, I wonder if they're okay. Is everything okay? Maybe I shouldn't call. Maybe I wait till after work. No, it's you pick up the phone, have a conversation with them. And many workplaces are recognizing the importance of this. And they're creating family days. They're including days in which you bring your kids to work. Some people bring their pets to work. And there is this notion of the fact that it's very difficult to separate our personal and professional lives, and that work-life integration is a much more achievable and possible outcome of empowering people to be able to make decisions and to have choices that puts these two responsibilities side by side and makes life easier for all of us.
I love that. That's so true. But we cannot separate these two from each other and expect to have a balance. But basically, we can integrate these two together. And I love that. It just shifts my perspective, because I do go for a walk at lunchtime. Even when I'm working at home, I'm working on both things at the same time. I still try to go for a walk, even if it's 10 minutes, just to get some fresh air and enjoy it. And now I see it as helping it to have a integration between work and life, which is necessary, and which is obviously something that
Sorry, I lost you
people
for a second. Sorry,
Oh,
you said
sure.
what's sad?
Yeah,
I lost you.
it's great. So I said I go for a walk, and
Yeah.
you just shifted my perspective. I wasn't looking at it as trying to integrate my life and work together. I was just, like, I don't know. I wasn't thinking about it that way. I was always considering the balance, because on the other hand, so our life has several aspects, right? Like our physical health, our spiritual, our intellectual, our business or career, finances, family, social life. So one thing that I was considering, like thinking about constantly, was like, okay, how do I balance these, and how many of these should I choose to work on, I guess, every day or every week? And I think if you looking at it as integration, you can pick two at a time, maybe, or even more, and try to do, like, even maybe yoga and meditation would be spiritual and physical together, and maybe listening to a podcast while you're walking, that's another integration of physical and intellectual together.
Correct.
And
Correct.
you just opened
And
a beautiful door
what
for
it comes
me.
down to, oh, thank you. And what it comes down to is you have a bucket list, you have a checklist of all the things that
Yes.
you need to do or to accomplish. But it depends what your goal is. You see, at the end of every week or at the end of every day, we may have certain goals. And if today I'm going to be focusing on creating something, then my work-life integration will look different than if tomorrow I'd like to focus on my physical health. So again, this is where deliberate goal setting comes into play, and not randomly just picking out from the list of things that we need to do. We need to prioritize. And how do we prioritize? We prioritize based on the goals that we set. So it always goes back to the why, as you mentioned. Everything goes back to the why. Why am I listening to a podcast today and walking? Because today I want to feed my brain and I want to exercise my body. That's my goal. That's the why, right? And once we have that, it makes it easier for us to decide certain things. If I can go back to what you said about working remotely, okay? More than ever, having a work-life integration is of utmost importance for those businesses who have decided to continue working remotely, and for us to better understand what happened during the pandemic. Do you know that more than 30% of the time people spend during virtual meetings, they multitask? They're doing lots of different things, right? And there's great research that came out of Harvard and out of Microsoft that they track the eyes of the people during virtual meetings, and they have looked into their Outlook emails, and they see that while they're on meetings, they're sending emails, they're writing different things, and they're not completely there entirely. Now, you'll remember, as well as I do, there was a time when people used to say, multitasking is a skill. You know, they used to ask people in interviews, do you know how to multitask?
Exactly.
You know, and it was seen as a positive.
What do you think?
Now oh no. Now we know, research tells us that multitasking not only lowers your IQ as you're doing the tasks, not only diminishes the outcome and the efficiency or the outcome of that particular task. You may make mistakes, you might get distracted, but what's worse, in the long run, you're not just harming your performance, but we found out now that you could be also damaging certain parts of your brain as a result of multitasking because of the pressure that it puts on certain brain functions. So in the long run, you're damaging your brain.
Wow.
And so more than ever, we've got the information of look, please don't eat your lunch while you're answering emails and talking on the phone. This is not called integration. This is called insanity. This is this kind of integration we want to avoid by all cost.
Okay.
Because I don't want people to mistaken integration with multitasking. That's not what we're talking about.
Okay. That was my question actually. So how do we, okay, I guess like walking and listening to a podcast is okay. But I thought eating lunch, I knew we shouldn't. I knew, but I'm guilty of it. I do eat lunch and also do something. The
Yeah.
least I do is talking to my mom, but normally I watch some trainings or some, like videos. I always have a lot of courses. So watch one of those courses while eating lunch. Is that also multitasking or is that integration?
So think about it this way. This will always help you make a decision. There are certain functions that we engage in that are automatic. Okay, for example, like breathing. You know, that's an automatic auto response, nervous system response that we have that we don't need to think about it.
True.
If there are tasks that require your attention, your focus, your decision making and processing, okay, that's the time in which the brain is unichannel. It's not multi-channel. It's impossible for our brain to do two things at the same time.
Correct.
Okay? Contrary to what people think, it's absolutely not possible. So what happens is your understanding of each task diminishes if you try to do this. So, for example, if you try to watch a training program or video and talk to mom at the same time, that doesn't work.
Yes.
Half of what mom says gets missed,
Yes.
or half of what you're watching gets lost.
True. True.
But if you're, having something to eat and talking to your mom at the same time, she might complain, like my mom complains. She says, "Are you eating again?" and talking to me on the phone. You might get complaints about that. But other than that, your brain, by and large, can manage those two tasks. But some would go as far as to argue that your system also requires a little bit of, 5 to 20 minutes in order to digest more effectively, for you not to be doing too many other things as you're eating, so that you can properly digest the food that you're having. And plus, people get stressed out when they're eating and answering emails. Your lunch break is supposed to be a break.
Yes.
It's supposed to be a break.
True.
When the weekends are supposed to be weekends, not times when you weaken yourself.
Oh, I
right?
love that. Yes.
Yes, weekends, not weaken. Don't weaken your system during the weekend. You don't burn yourself out with too much partying and going out. And at the same time, don't answer emails and respond to, work-related issues, because you're supposed to use that time to refuel yourself. Evenings are the same. When you're on holiday, my grandmother once told me, if something happens to you tomorrow and you're no longer able to work, do you think they're going to build a statue of you outside of the building of the company? They'll replace you very quickly.
True.
But you can never replace, you can never, never have your health back if you reach to a point in which you've stressed yourself out or you've burnt yourself out to the point of no return. And you and I both know the pandemic has been absolutely brutal in terms of people having no work-life balance, no work-life integration. We wake up in the morning, we sit behind the laptop from 7 o'clock till sometimes till 11, 12 o'clock at night because it's in our living room. It's at home.
Yes. Exactly.
Right? And this has harmed a lot of people, both in terms of stress and burnout.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I guess one thing that I just remembered was Daniel Kahneman's book, Thinking Fast and Slow, talks about system one and system two, the automatic one and the other one that needs time to answer. I guess whatever is in system one and automatic, we can do at the same time as something else, and like walking and listening to podcasts, or maybe even sometimes walking can be without listening to anything, so that we can be like mindful and be there in the moment and enjoy, you know, the air, the sounds, and the sceneries, whatever we're passing by.
Correct. I mean, that's the ideal scenario, isn't it? That's, if you can, that's wonderful to be in the moment and to have these positive pauses. But if you're, you know, you want to listen to a podcast because it helps you walk longer, because it helps you exercise more efficiently, then that's a positive tool, isn't it?
Love that. Okay. And I looked at some stats on online, and I saw it says 60% of leaders are experiencing burnout, like in 2021, because of the pandemic, because of what you just said, and also 76% of the U.S. employees as well, like they were experiencing the burnout. And I wanted to ask you, can you also define the burnout for us? And
Sure.
tell us what's the difference between burnout and stress?
Sure, absolutely. Well, let me define I've written down the definition of burnout that I like to use that makes good sense to me. Burnout is the accumulation of unchecked stress over a long period of time. You can have stress without burnout, but you can't have burnout without stress. Okay? So the accumulation of unchecked stress. Let me give you some examples. Let me give you some examples of some of these differences. For example, when you're stressed, you can be over-engaged, over-contributing, overly involved in something that leads you to having stress. When you're experiencing burnout, you're disengaged. You're now demotivated. You don't have the same motivation. Tasks, even writing an email that would take you 3 seconds normally, you avoid it, you procrastinate. It feels like a monumental, massive task that you don't want to be involved in. Stress takes physical and emotional toll, but burnout primarily takes emotional toll. It does impact our physical. So if you imagine stress impacts, if we had to put a number to it, we'd say, for example, 60% physical, 40% emotional. With burnout, it's about 70 or 80% that's emotional, and 20 to 30% that would be physical. There's a lot that's happening from a psychological perspective. When we burn out, there's irritation. We are easily irritated or triggered by different people. We dread going to work. We have fatigue. We feel incredibly tired and low in energy. We're not concentrating as well as we used to. We're distracted. We want to isolate ourselves. We don't want to talk to certain people. We don't want to engage with our colleagues and even our friends and family. We want to retrieve into our cave. And you feel that nothing is going right. You feel that whatever you do or say, something's wrong with it. There's a problem associated with it, which then unfortunately leads to detachment. And you have a general sense of disconnection or detachment between yourself and your environment. And if you leave it unchecked, it can lead into panic attacks, anxiety disorders, and depression. So it's very, very important that we acknowledge the signs, we recognize what they are, and we deal with them. I mean, look at the statistic that you shared with me. These are people who are supposed to be caring for and leading and instructing and guiding hundreds and thousands of millions of people, right?
Yes.
But you see, you know, the most, I would say, who we need to hold accountable are the heads of organizations. Do they have policies and procedures in place to take care of people who burn out? Who's accountable for all the work that is dumped on individuals and the guilt that is put onto them about achieving certain targets? Why do they send an email on Saturday at 11:30 at night and say, "Oh, I hope you're not checking your email. It's finished. The email is there already. You've sent the email. If you really think it's important for me not to respond, don't send the email at that time."
Yes.
You know, so, and what protection do managers, heads of departments, and leaders have when they're feeling burnt out? You see, the biggest problem is because people are afraid of getting fired or they're afraid of losing their jobs, they don't talk about it. They internalize this and they hide it away because we don't have a proper support system for people suffering from burnout. It's looked at negatively. There's a stigma around it. We think we failed, but we haven't failed. We're just tired. And everybody deserves a chance to be able to refresh, to reset themselves, to be able to come back stronger and more resilient. But if you're not given that chance, how are you going to achieve that?
True. And then how do we prevent burnout, or how do we beat it?
Yeah. So first of all, you had me getting, very passionate about this subject. The culture of the company needs to be devised and set in a way, cultures of workplaces, the ecology of workplaces have to be designed and devised in a way that recognizes and understands this issue, that has proper role designation, delegation, is able to have systems and structures in place to see people to succeed rather than to set them up to fail. And if they happen to experience burnout, that we have a support system to be able to catch them, to make them, feel better for what they're experiencing. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Managers should be aware of absenteeism. They should be, and you know what's worse than absenteeism? Presenteeism. Presenteeism is when you come to work simply because you don't want to take time off out of your annual leave, but you're not really there. You're present, but you're mentally and physically in bed at home. You're just there. So pay attention to people who are calling in sick. Pay attention to people who seem they're disengaged, if they're exhausted, if they're highly sensitive, if their emotions are, if they seem to be snapping more than usual, if they're withdrawing themselves or they feel a little bit more isolated, and if their performance has started to decline, right? It's okay for people to experience these things. They shouldn't be reprimanded. They shouldn't be punished. They need to be positively confronted and supported to understand what they're going through, and then come up with solutions and strategies to help them. Okay, so that's from an organizational point of view. From a personal point of view, what we need to do, first of all, is you remember that the title of our talk is How Many Plates Are You Spinning?
Yes.
Put down those plates. It's the first thing we need
All
to
of
do.
them?
Put down all of those plates. Yep. And I know you're a good spinner. I've seen you. You know how to spin those, girl, for sure. But what you need to do is put down all those plates, stand back, and set your goals. And then ask yourself, which plates do I need to pick up today? I can't pick up every single plate every day and spin them, because after a while, those plates are going to fall and break. And it's not sustainable. It doesn't mean you can't do it, but why should you do it? Here's my point. Don't let your strength become your biggest weakness. I'm going to say it again. Don't let your strength of plate spinning become your biggest weakness, because you may be able to spin those beautiful plates today, but after a week of spinning, you're going to get stressed and eventually burnt out. And that's what we don't want to happen. Okay, so we need to prioritize you and self-care. It's important and it's essential to replenish your physical and emotional energy, along with your capacity to be able to focus, to be able to prioritize. And that means, to start with, why don't I keep a journal of what kind of things what are the plates that I spin every day? Let me keep track of this. And I tell you, when I do this with my clients, after about a few days, they're shocked. They cannot believe the list of the things that they do on a daily basis. And most of them go to bed at the end of the day, not celebrating everything that they achieved in that day, but worrying about everything that needs to be done tomorrow, or everything that they weren't able to finish today. Isn't that horrible?
It is.
It really is. And at the end of the day, what we need to do is we need to celebrate everything. Rather than have a to-do list, let's have a to-done list.
Oh, I love
Have
that.
a list. Yeah, have a list at the end of your day, not to do, but to done.
Wow.
So that you can list everything that you accomplished during that day, and then you can feel incredibly happy and empowered by that particular list. We engaged in a study. You must have heard of this before. I shared it in one of my other discussions. The practice of thinking about what was the best thing about my day. That's all. Instead of on your way home thinking about everything you didn't do, the argument you had with your colleague, the email that you didn't send, instead of thinking about all those ridiculous energy thieves and energy vampires, think about what was the best thing about my day. And it can be as beautiful as, I had the most delicious cup of coffee. Wow. That 5 minutes when I sat with my beautifully brewed cup of coffee, that scent of the aroma of this gorgeous beverage that gives me energy and sanity. Thank you for that moment. And immediately what happens, if I were to measure your brain chemicals and the hormones with your body, your system gets flooded with serotonin and dopamine, and it's like a refresh button for your soul, right? So think about, what was the best thing about my day? Prioritize self-care. Keep a journal of everything you do, and start getting, if in the journal it says, I spent 2 hours on Instagram, you need to have a conversation with yourself, right?
Yes.
You need to check in with yourself. People tell me, Dr. Shaheem, I wish you would be more on Instagram. I wish you would put more content on it. Please do videos more on Instagram. And my answer is, thank you. I'm grateful. But no, I would like to be well enough so that I can do certain things for you. And if I do that, I'm going to burn out.
Yeah.
Right? We have to balance it. We have to balance life, real life, with social media and the virtual world. We mustn't lose touch or focus with that. So prioritize. Are you back? There you are. Sorry, I lost you for a minute. You know, I talk
Yes.
a lot about emotional intelligence. Emotional
Yes.
intelligence, the first dimension of emotional intelligence is self-awareness. How do we avoid feeling stressed out and burnt out? By understanding what triggers us, what empties our fuel, what are the activities that we engage in that really depletes us in that manner. So the more you deepen your self-awareness, and I have a balance chart, which I'm going to share with you and I'm going to share with our listeners here today. All you have to do every once in a while, go through this balance chart and look at, let me see if I can pull this up here for you right now, just to show what I'm talking about. And I'm going to try something really cool and technological right now. So watch out. Let's see if it works. Um, can, can you see this right now?
Yes, but let's see if I
The
can
balance
read it.
bubble?
I can. I
Yeah.
see. I
I, I,
see.
I don't know.
I see the bubble and the boxes, but I can't read what's
Mhm.
inside.
And what's inside, no problem. So what we'll do, we'll share it. And there's different
Okay.
elements associated with the balance bubble. You've got your home, you've got your health, activity level, friends, work, creativity, finances, different elements. And every once in a while, you should go through these different elements and rate yourself in terms of performance and productivity from 1 to 10. Now, if my work says it's an 8, and my rest and relaxation says it's a 2, we have a problem, right? And when it's
Yes.
staring at you black and white in your face, it's a wake up call. It's a red flag
True.
that what do I need to do to keep my work at an 8, but to bring my rest and relaxation at least to a 6.
Yeah.
So during that week, the goals that you set will be linked to the elements in your balance bubble that you'd like to increase.
True.
Right? And if you're able to keep a balance between these very different elements, then you're able to achieve that kind of integration as well as making sure you sustain your health and well-being. So emotional intelligence, self-awareness, using the balance bubble to look at these different elements of our lives. And then we need sleep. Sleep, sleep, sleep. I can't tell you how important. How many hours do you sleep a night?
Ooh. Um, I'm trying to do better and sleep more, but like 6 hours.
Uh-oh. Oh, okay. 6 hours is not that bad.
Okay.
Do you, yeah?
I
Do you
used
have less? Hmm.
I used to sleep less when I was looking for my why. I
Hmm.
couldn't. Time was still is the most important thing to me. And
Yeah.
when I was looking for my why, I
Hmm.
just couldn't sleep. I
Hmm.
emailed Mel Robbins at 1 a.m.
Hmm.
sent her an email, and I was like, I've done this and that and this and that, and I'm looking for my why. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I thought at that time I thought I knew my why, and I
Yeah.
was looking for my what. And then later I realized no, that wasn't my real why, and that's why I can't find my what. So I emailed her at 1. I remember I couldn't sleep. I remember that moment that I was looking at my husband, and
Hmm.
he's very successful. He's very good in everything he does. And I was looking at him and just thinking about people who already know what they love to do.
Right.
And I was just like, oh my God, like I cannot wait for the day that I know what I'm gonna do. I know I don't want to be in accounting. I know I don't want to. I am still the assistant vice president of a company doing budgeting and operation planning. I mean, based on title,
Fantastic.
based on my salary, everything, looked really good. But I knew I can do more. I knew I can become better version of myself, and I
Yes.
knew I want to do life mastery. I wanted to be a master of my life, doing whatever I can, because I believe we are here. We have this time to make an impact. And I know that impact doesn't need to be big. It can be very small. But there is a reason for us to be here. And at that time, I was like, what is that reason? I don't know what I'm going to do. So I couldn't
Yeah.
sleep. I used to go to bed really late, get up really early, and start just reading, watching, going to watching TED Talks, online classes, YouTube videos in so many different directions, because I was just, I had a missing part, I guess, and I was
Yeah.
looking for that piece. But yeah,
So
now I'm
can
seeing.
I, with your permission,
Yes.
may I offer two bits of, not advice, but suggestions, and perhaps ask you some questions about what you've said?
Of course,
Okay.
yes.
First of all, the first thing that's really important here is oftentimes we're looking for the why and then waiting to find that before we do. And it happens the other way around.
Exactly.
You have to actually do in order for the why to materialize itself. And as you're doing and engaging in activities that you feel that are more drawn to you, you may not know exactly what it is, but you certainly know that you'd love to say yes to these kinds of activities, and you're mesmerized by them, and you are hypnotized by them, and you don't feel time passing when you're doing those things. These are all signs, right? And the more you do, the more the why crystallizes and materializes. Was that your experience as well?
Exactly. And I've never looked at it this way. Thank you for shining your light on it. Seriously, that's
You're
exactly
welcome.
what happened.
Yeah. And for those listening, I think it's so important for them not to wait for, there isn't this one day when the why suddenly appears. It's an evolution, right? It takes shape and it starts taking form the more steps you take towards it. I want you to imagine it this way. There's a beautiful statue in the faraway distance, and someone has told you that you need to visit the statue, and you know you need to visit the statue. You're not sure exactly why, but you're walking towards it, and every step that you take, the statue becomes a little bit more clear. But if you keep standing where you're standing, the view and your vision and your accuracy of what you see is not going to change, right?
So true. Yes.
Right. So we need to take steps. We need to take steps to get closer. Now, as you know, I'm in education. All my life, I've been either teaching or learning or doing both at the same time. Okay.
Yes.
So what I'm about to say might sound counterintuitive, but stay with me for a second. Sometimes when we're discussing or deciding or trying to figure out what our purpose is, what our why is, we spend a lot of time being told by other people, external experts and self-help books and videos and TED Talks and YouTubes, and we drown ourselves with other people's voices. Okay? Sometimes in between all that content, you need to become more conscientious of the voice inside and get closer to becoming more awake, not mindful. Mindful was 2 decades ago. Now we need to become more awake, wakeful. Mindful is when you just recognize that thought. When you're wakeful, when you're awake, you act upon what you're mindful about. And that means I need to become a little bit closer to my internal voice because I have the answers. Nobody knows what I want to do and what I'm good at and what drives me and what I'm passionate about more than me. So why am I listening to everybody else's dreams?
True.
Right?
Yes.
So, and it's not an either or situation. Here's another example of integration. Don't forget about the voice within as you're listening to everybody else's voice. Yeah?
Yes, very true. And I love that. And I just, it just reminded me of the book Untethered Soul. That's also a beautiful book if people want to learn to listen to their inner voice.
What's it called again? Can you say the name again?
Untethered Soul.
Untethered Soul. Okay, I'll look that up. Thank you.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
I love that.
then we
Everything
say,
you're saying,
yeah.
Mr. Shaheem. I'm like, if you could see my wings here, I'm like flying.
That's wonderful. You know, this is the beautiful aspect of having these discussions without pre-planning too much. You know, it's wonderful, the insights that can sometimes surface as a result. So we said, okay, balance bubble, you got to pay attention to the balance bubble. You got to make sure that you're keeping all those different elements in check. And then one of my favorites, make sure you're taking your vitamins. But one of the most important vitamin is vitamin N, and that's vitamin nature. Okay? Are you getting your daily dose of your vitamin nature? Being out in green spaces. And, you know, some people say, well, I live in a country where I may not have green spaces. I tell you what, I lived for a number of years in the United Arab Emirates, and there's nothing more stunning and more beautiful than the desert. In the desert, and those trips to the desert, you know, when at night the stars are right here, you feel like you can reach out and touch those beautiful stars. The silence of the desert, the silence when you're out on a boat or on a lake or on a body of water, whatever that is, just to enjoy whatever nature you have near you, to just make sure that you spend some time feeling connected to nature and to rejuvenating your senses as a result of this vitamin N. We talked about regular breaks, and by regular breaks, we also mentioned that it means to be able to have regular breaks throughout the day, to have regular breaks from screen time, regular breaks from having, you know, too many meaningless meetings if it's not necessary to have those. When you're on annual leave, you know, make sure that you have enough time. That I speak to a lot of my clients. They say, you know, I haven't taken a holiday for 2 years. Why? Why is that the case? Do you know many managing directors and CEOs and heads of companies, they experience the worst kinds of sickness, heart attacks, ailments on the second day of their holiday? It's called leisure sickness because their system is on go, 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 go. The minute they relax a little bit, they have all kinds of health complications when they're away on holiday. So it's very important for you to have, you know, you don't need to take a month off once every 2 years. Even if you take a Friday and a Monday off every couple of months, that will make a difference for you. You know, it will definitely help you not burn out, and it will definitely help you not to get stressed out more regularly, right? So it's very important to take those breaks on a regular basis. And when you're on those breaks, remember, try and disconnect. You know, I'm saying these things, but I was a person who was most guilty of doing this. You know, unable to disconnect. And you know who changed it for me? One of my team members. One of my team members. I love her. One of my team members. She's my associate dean, and she said to me, "You know what, Sam? When you're going to send me an email, if you're on holiday, I'm not going to answer. I'm not going to respond." And I said, "What are you talking about?" She said, "I don't care if you're my boss. I'm not going to answer because you need time off." And that was, I needed that mirror to be held up to my face for her. And I knew I have to do it for them because I'm not setting a good example for them, you know. So regular breaks. And then, of course, when you need to, you know, if it's work related, speak to your manager, speak to HR. If you feel like you're having difficulty with managing the workload, if you feel like you need to increase the size of your team, if you need extra, you know, tools or resources, or you need to go on a training program to improve, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to show your deficiencies. And I know in some cases, people feel incredibly vulnerable and they feel afraid to be able to speak up. I understand that. I have empathy for that because it's real. You know, there's places that really treat people badly when they share their sicknesses or their illnesses. It's tough to trust. But if you're working in a company that you can't trust them, that's a big red flag, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And so those are some practical steps we can take to try and decrease stress and to try and prevent burnout in the long run.
Thank you so much. I took so many notes here, and I cannot wait. I'm gonna actually try to explain everything. I can't do everything probably, but I will do my best to do everything in Farsi as well, so that everyone can benefit from
Thank
this.
you so much. Yeah, if you do that, then I will immediately share it as well, so that people can, you know, benefit from that. You know, I've lived and been raised in the West. My Farsi is only up to the level of conversational, you know, sort of the proficiency is conversational. When it comes to work-related issues, unfortunately, I can't communicate with the same style and with the same strength as I do in English. So I really appreciate, I can't tell you how many of our listeners have said, I've gone out and improved my English so that I could benefit from these engagements. So thank you very much for understanding that. And people like yourselves who translate and who share this content in Farsi, I will do the same. I'll pass it on. So thank you so much for doing that.
Thank you so much for all these knowledge and sharing it with us. It's just absolutely amazing. I'm thinking I'm gonna watch this live over and over, and I'm sure this is one of those lives that you listen to, and each time you listen you grab something new out of it. I love it.
Thank you
So much for your time. I'm gonna, if
My
you don't
pleasure.
mind, if we already went over 1 hour, but we have some questions here.
Sure.
Is that okay? Okay.
Yeah, no, I have time. If you have time, I'm okay to stay.
Make time for you, Dr. Shaheem. Are you kidding me? I love you. So I have some questions here, which, okay, I'm not really good at doing this Q&A on Instagram. I guess I think I just read them for you because I don't want to mess it up.
Oh my goodness.
Let me just
Okay.
click on one and
So let me see. I'm trying to see the questions.
oh, can you see them? Awesome. Okay. I've never done
You
this.
know, I tried to see the questions, but what happened, I ended up with having, look,
Oh,
green eyes and cartoon face. So I don't know what I'm doing wrong.
okay. this shows that we're not really spending so much time on Instagram, which is good.
Yeah. I can't see any questions. I
Okay.
can't see. So have you put the questions back on? I mean, the
I see them.
comments?
Yes, the comments are on. I see some questions. I can read them for you because I don't know how to.
Oh, here they are. I found them. So
Yeah.
we have, okay, the first one says, would you please save this live? Yes, we will save it.
Yes.
Okay. The second question is, I think burnt out last 2 years. I postponed my thesis work in the laboratory for 2 years. And I suppose this is from Fine Art Girl, and she's talking about, I believe she may be talking about postponing her PhD thesis or her master's thesis. And what I would like to say is that's absolutely okay. Doing a PhD or a dissertation is one of the hardest things people will do. I mean, it is incredibly challenging, it is incredibly taxing, and takes a lot of energy out of us. And the only thing you should keep in mind is come back to it. Doesn't matter how many times you fall. There's a beautiful Japanese expression that says, fall 7 times, get up 8 times. It doesn't matter. It's don't focus on the fact that you quit. Focus on how many times you can get back up. That's the most important thing. Then we have someone saying, how do we recover from burnout? Well, we've talked a little bit about that, and we've talked about what you can do to try and reestablish your health as a result of recovering from burnout. But what we'll do after this conversation is you and I can create some posts and summaries, some tips and tools that people can use and to draw from. Is that okay?
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yes.
Can you see me right now still, or
Yes,
am I not visible?
you are visible.
Okay.
I can see you.
Okay. Because I can only see the questions. And then please save this live. Yep. A lot of people are asking, can you please save these lives? Another
Yes.
question is, how can I be accepted to an Ivy League university from Iran? Well, it depends which Ivy League university. It depends what subject and what major you want to get accepted into. It depends what your grades are, and it depends what kind of subjects, the subject that you have decided. So there's a number of important variables that you have to consider before I could ever answer this question. I suggest that you would contact the university that you're interested in applying to and asking them. They will have academic counselors that they could that you could refer to or speak to, that they'll be able to give you the most accurate response to that question. So go straight to the university. And then our next question here is how to be a good leader as a young human. As a young human, well, to begin with, leadership is everybody's business. Doesn't matter how old you are. You should know what it feels like and what it looks like to be a good leader, because you're going to be led by people, and eventually you'll be in position that you're leading other individuals. How do you become a good leader? Well, for me, there's a number of things that are very important. First of all, deepen your self-awareness. Know who you are, what your values are, voice those values, and live by those values. Second of all, make sure that you manage yourself effectively. See, people say, oh, we need to learn better time management. Time cannot be managed. It's the self that's managed. Everybody has the exact same minutes and seconds and days in their lives. How the difference between successful people and other people is how they manage their selves, how they set goals and priorities, and they manage their energies throughout the day. So self-management is incredibly important for a leader. And principles that are important in like being inspiring, forward-looking, an effective communicator, being competent at what you do, being able to deliver on promises, being able to bring teams together, and achieving psychological safety within teams. So consider what characteristics and practices are important in leadership and work on growing those within your system. Okay? Fourth of all, seek mentors. Look at people who are successful and learn from them. Ask them, seek them out, spend time with them. Say to them, I think your work is incredible. Is there a way that I could have a half an hour conversation with you once a month to learn from you in a mentorship type relationship? I have a number of people that I mentor, and I have a number of mentors in my life that have been instrumental in everything that I've achieved. So I can't tell you how important mentorship is. And incidentally, myself and 4 of my friends and colleagues, we're starting a global female entrepreneurship and leadership private club for females only called Made for You. And this is going to be a digital platform that connects people, that helps develop and grow leaders, both from a technical skills point of view, as well as a cognitive behavioral skills point of view. So more about that coming up soon. But these are some of the things that we could do. Thank you. Is there anything that you think is important for our young friend who is asking this question about leadership? What would you add to that?
Everything I had in mind you mentioned. So I guess the one thing I want to say is that we are leading ourselves first. So learn to lead yourself, lead your life, and then think about leading others. How can you be the best leader of your life? And
beautiful.
Not so one thing that one sentence that I just remembered, like, you don't want to be the manager of the circumstances. You want to be the leader of your life. So you want to have the control over your life. So make sure,
love it.
First of all, instead of looking at others, look at yourself and get everything done here, and then go for leading others.
Beautiful, beautiful, absolutely. Because if you can't lead yourself, right? If you're not able to self-manage, if you're not able to manage your relationships, then how can you be an example to others? I agreed. Absolutely beautiful.
Thank you.
Yes.
Awesome.
Those are the questions that I see.
Yes. To having a to-do list was seriously one of the best suggestions I have ever got. I feel it would be a great idea if we all could share our notes and gave a combined note. Thank you so much. Oh yeah, that's a great idea. Yes. Yes.
I get most excited when people send me their notes. I am the biggest nerd when it comes to notes. So please send me your notes. I'll compile them. I'll put them all together.
Yeah, me too. I love it. Awesome. Yeah. And I translate all of them. So
beautiful.
Awesome. Okay, so I don't want to say bye to you, Dr. Shaheem. I loved everything you said, and I really, really appreciate your time and your energy and your knowledge and everything you shared with us. Again, everything about you excites me, and I love to learn from you, and I cannot wait to hear more about Made for You, and love to be in that as well. So
yeah, no, for sure. You're going to be part of it. Absolutely. So I've got this beautiful network. You're one of those people on Instagram that we have, exchange ideas and we help share these insights and knowledge with people. Thank you for being you. Thank you for taking the time that you always do for other people. Keep staying on track with your mission and with your purpose. you remember you're far more capable than you give yourself credit to. You're able to do this incredible job, your normal job during the day, and you're able to do, what you're passionate about. Just pay attention to your body, listen to your body, make sure that you don't drown out the voice within your body. I'm going to give you a quick example before we end. You know how there's some people when they go out at night, even though they know they're tired, they want to stay till 1, 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, and they pay the price the next day.
Yes.
Okay? Then there are some people who 10:30, 11 o'clock, they just know. They know that I'm tired and I need to go home, and they're very close to the mechanisms of their system because they listen to what their system speaks to them and is what they're saying to them. Listen to what your system says to you. Don't second guess it. Trust the voice, and don't let other people's voice drown your own voice out, because it's very important for our health and well-being to listen to those. But you're capable of everything that you put your mind to. Okay? And I look forward for us to do this, to do this again. This doesn't have to be a one-time situation, for sure.
Oh my God, thank you so much. That would be great. Yes, let's do it.
Pleasure.
Awesome.
Pleasure.
Thank you
So you
much.
have a great rest of your day. I will let you conclude this discussion. I'll say goodbye for now, and I'll share the live once you post it. Mwah!
Mwah.
Take
Thank you
care.
so much. You too. Have a good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks, everyone. So please share with us your notes, and if they're in English, that's awesome. If they're in Farsi, that's also awesome, and I'll translate them in the other language and we'll share it. And thanks for being here. I love seeing you guys here, and I'm glad you enjoyed it. And the more you enjoy these type of things, the more we do it. Thanks again. See you later. Bye.